Carl Jung said, people don't have ideas. Ideas have people. That's such an interesting thing to think about, and an interesting way to think about ideas. I'm the kind of person who likes to think about ideas a lot, and so I guess a lot of ideas have me. But yeah, I don't know, we like to have this idea that we're like looking for truth always, and that we're always just like convinced by the best arguments, and then that, you know, all these ideas are ours, which they're not. When you look at like the actual source of your ideas, it's pretty obvious that most of them you don't come up with. And if you can say that you've come up with certain ideas, you know, there's certain ideas that I like to think that I've come up with. Creativity is just a bringing together of things that already exist in a way that they haven't before. And so, even if you can say that you've come up with an idea, it's the bringing together of ideas that have come from outside sources. And so that's something it's interesting to think about, because, you know, you can look at the world as people who are kind of, you know, throwing out these different ideas and like battling the ideas, I guess. Or another way you could think of it is the ideas are using us, and then we are acting as lawyers for the ideas. And I think that's a more true way of thinking about it. You are a lawyer for your ideas, and you're finding the evidence in support of the things that you're trying to prove. And I don't know if that, I mean, like, there's a lot of people who say, yeah, like, that's called confirmation bias, really, when we find the evidence that supports the claims that we already believe in. But, you know, a lot of people say, well, yeah, you recognize that you have confirmation bias, and then you can overcome it, right? You just find other things that contradict your beliefs. But I don't think it's that easily overcome. I think that it might be... Whoa. We're good. Confirmation bias, I don't think is something... I think minds can be changed, but it's a different process than people think, and it's definitely not through debate. And I definitely don't think it's as easily overcome as people think. Yeah, because I mean, that's how we actually find things out. That's how we gain new information, is by assimilating that information into the structure of what we already have set up. It's like the things that we already have. We got to figure out how to incorporate that information into our story that we already have, our narrative. And there's no way to not have a narrative, I don't think. Because that's just how you get new information. And then you put that new information within your narrative, and that's how you remember it. And stories are really important to humans. And so I think, you know, this begs the question of how do you actually change someone's mind? And And to me, it seems that the only way to do that, then this, I don't know, it makes a lot of sense that you you have to understand what other people believe. You have to understand their narrative. Also, I should say that if your goal is to change somebody's mind at all, it's a pretty presumptuous thing to do, because you're assuming that what another person knows is less right than what you know. And I don't know, that's a pretty big assumption to make. And so I think you should be just as intent on changing your own mind as you should be on changing other people's minds. But to change someone else's mind, you have to understand their narrative and their story, and you have to convince them that something, that what you have, you have to convince them that the idea that has you can fit into their story. And that's not always, well, it takes understanding. And maybe like that's a good thing to try to do, for sure, because in the process of trying to change somebody else's mind, you do have to learn something.
Oh, didn't know you were out there. You should shut up while I don't count. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for turning the light back on.
Okay, we're gonna go. Would you just shut everything off and you can
Yeah, I will.
leave it like this and maybe mom can flash it.
Okay. I'm becoming way too lazy to like redo these videos, so that's gonna be in there too. But yeah, in the process of changing somebody else's mind, you have to be willing to let your own mind change. And you know, there's an idea that I put forward earlier, that your thoughts are kind of like soldiers that are able to fight and die, and I think that's true, but at the same time, we're soldiers for ideas that go and like fight and die, and we test things out, and by testing we determine how well an idea really works. I don't know, to me the most obvious example is with like the Soviet Union and communism. They became the embodiment of that idea, and they played it out, and then they showed where that idea leads, because we can't do that all in our heads necessarily. And a lot of people argue, you know, that wasn't real communism or whatever, and I could argue against that, but that's not really what this video is about. I just want to, and I talked about this same concept before as well, and so maybe I'm repeating myself a little too much, but this is such an interesting thing to me. It's such a powerful thing that, like, you're definitely not as right as you think you are, and I think that's something, an important thing to think about. And things just, you know, they're not as certain as we want them to be. And there's still a lot of that I'm trying to work out, you know, trying to figure out, of course, how much debate matters. how much all these other things matter. And there's this aspect of experience too. Experience seems to change people's minds far faster than debate. And I'm trying to figure out why that is. I think it's just it kills off the ideas that hold you quickly, very quickly. When you experience something, you get shown right away. Just snap, this is how things are, and yeah, I think that's why, and I think that's why experience is the best way to change people's minds, because it'll kill and build ideas right away, because it's something you can't deny. Thoughts, ideas and thoughts are all hypothetical in your head, and you're trying to, like I said before, you think so that your thoughts can die so that you don't have to, and so you're working these things through in your brain, but there's no way to actually test them in the real world. You're just testing them with what you know, and so that's always just to the best of our limited knowledge. But once something happens in the real world, that's something that you can't deny. That's something that's real. And so I think that's why experience really is the best way to prove something to somebody, to show them, what ideas really work. 'Cause then it's not, once something really happens, it's not an idea anymore. It's a reality. And I think, this is something that happened with like Uber. It's what's happening with Bitcoin, where people are, it's been a long time that people have been trying to have and talk about a decentralized currency, and once Bitcoin was created, it's a reality, and that's just something that people have to face. It's different now from just ideas, and Uber is a very similar thing. I think there were a lot of people upset with Uber. There must have been people talking about, the ridiculousness of the monopoly the taxi drivers had on this kind of chauffeuring business, and wouldn't it be cool if that would be undermined, and you could argue back and forth about what the effects of that would be, but once things like Uber and Lyft were created, that became a reality. And then same thing with Airbnb. I could go on and on. Well, really everything that's been created, it shows us the reality of things that are just no longer ideas. They're just no longer debatable. And so I'd like to make another video talking about, the best way to criticize, and to criticize by creating, but I don't know if I'll get a chance to do that. But for sure, if you want to change somebody's mind, create an experience for them that shows them, what you believe, or even better, if you want to strengthen your own ideas and really make sure you're, right, I guess. I guess right is the right word. If you want to make sure your ideas are strong, try to find experience. And I guess that's the difference between knowledge and wisdom as well. Wisdom comes with experience. And so, yeah, experience is important. And it's the way to change your mind, is the way to change other people's minds, and the way to make sure your ideas and your actions are strong. And so that's what I got for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for making it through all the weird interruptions, and If you like this, you can like it, share, comment if you feel like you can change my mind. And yeah, thanks for watching. Kelton Out Loud on Facebook and YouTube. And I'll see you in the next video.